When pirates picked the wrong enemy, U.S. Navy strikes back. Picture this. It's pitch black on the open ocean. No land in sight. No witnesses. Just the sound of waves and the low growl of outboard motors cutting through the dark. Armed men in a skiff, moving fast, moving quiet. They've done this dozens of times before. They know how to frighten. They know how to take. And tonight, they think they've found another easy target. They haven't. Because somewhere in that same darkness, a billion-dollar warship is watching. Sensors are locked on. Operators are calm. And the moment those pirates made their move, they signed their own fate. Today, we're telling the stories of some of the most daring, most intense, and most defining moments of the U.S. Navy's war against piracy on the high seas. These aren't just rescue missions. They're a message, written in fire, steel, and the absolute resolve of the world's most powerful military force. So buckle up, because what you're about to hear, it doesn't get more intense than this. Operation Ghost Tide, Gulf of Aden, May 26, 2026, 4 a.m. The sea was glassy that morning. Not peaceful, glassy, the way the ocean gets right before it turns on you. The MV Iron Shore, a chemical tanker loaded with petroleum compounds valued at approximately $11 million, was making her routine transit through the Gulf of Aden. Her captain, a seasoned Filipino mariner with 22 years at sea, had crossed these waters dozens of times. He knew the risk. He had protocols. He had drills. What he didn't have, not yet, was the knowledge that two armed skiffs had been shadowing his vessel for the past 40 minutes, running parallel with their lights off. At exactly 4:17 a.m., they made their move. The attack was swift. Grappling hooks, ladders, automatic weapons. Within minutes, 8 armed pirates had breached the vessel's deck. The crew, following their emergency training, immediately activated the ship's security alert system, a silent distress beacon that bypassed all normal communication channels and went directly to Coalition Naval Command. 600 nautical miles away, a watch officer on the USS Ramage, an Arleigh Burke-class guided missile destroyer on active anti-piracy patrol, received that signal at 4:23 a.m. The response was immediate. Within 4 minutes, the Ramage had altered course, pushed her engines to flank speed, and was already requesting overhead intelligence assets. Can you imagine being that watch officer? 600 miles away, in the dark, knowing that somewhere out there, 22 crew members are at the mercy of armed men. And the clock is ticking? The hunt begins, May 26, 2026, 5 a.m. By 5 a.m., a P-8A Poseidon maritime patrol aircraft, one of the most sophisticated surveillance platforms on Earth, had been redirected from its regular patrol route and was now racing toward the Iron Shore's last known position. The Poseidon's sensor array is extraordinary. Its electro-optical and infrared systems can identify individual human figures from 30,000 feet at night. As it swept over the tanker at 5:38 a.m., the crew were able to confirm 8 hostiles on deck, 22 crew unaccounted for, and the tanker was still moving, being steered by the pirates on a heading toward the Somali coast. The tactical picture was clear. If that ship reached Somali waters, a rescue operation would become exponentially more complicated. They had maybe 6 hours before that happened. The commander of the Ramage made his decision. They weren't going to wait. A SEAL element, 8 operators from SEAL Team 8, already embarked on the destroyer as part of a rotating anti-piracy task force, began mission prep at 5:45 a.m. Weapons check. Comms check. Intel brief. The plan was direct but demanding. Approach by sea, board at the stern, neutralize the threat, secure the crew. From the Poseidon above, operators tracked every movement on deck in real time. Every door, every entry point, every pirate position, fed live to the SEALs as they locked and loaded aboard 2 combat rubber raiding craft launched from the Ramage's stern. The Gulf was cold and dark. The men in the boats were not afraid. Contact, May 26, 2026, 7:15 a.m. The SEALs approached with the predatory patience that defines their training. Low, slow, invisible. At 7:15 a.m., they reached the hull of the Iron Shore. Magnetic hooks bit into the steel. Men ascended the side of the ship in silence. Meanwhile, a Navy MH-60 or Seahawk helicopter, armed, fueled, and already airborne, circled at a holding distance. Its crew monitored communications. Its weapons systems were live. At 7:22 a.m., the lead element reached the main deck. Within the next 90 seconds, what followed was exactly what the SEALs trained thousands of hours to execute: a controlled, deliberate clearance. One by one, the pirates were either taken into custody or forced to retreat to the ship's bridge, where they barricaded themselves with 2 crew members as leverage. If you were one of those crew members on that bridge, trapped with armed men who know they've just lost. What would go through your mind in those seconds? At 7:41 a.m., the standoff ended. A negotiator aboard the Ramage spoke directly to the pirates through an interpreter via radio, while simultaneously the Seahawk descended and made a dramatic, nose-on approach directly toward the bridge windows, blades screaming, spotlight blinding. The psychological pressure was absolute. The pirates surrendered at 7:44 a.m. All 22 crew members were recovered safe and unharmed. All 8 pirates were taken into custody, bound, and transported to the Ramage for processing. The Iron Shore, her cargo intact, resumed her transit under naval escort. Total operation time from alert to conclusion, 3 hours, 27 minutes. That is what the United States Navy does. Operation Iron Thunder, May 27, 2026, 11 p.m. 1 day later, 60 nautical miles further east. A different story, and a far more violent one. The American container ship MV Resolute Dawn was not supposed to be there. A navigational detour due to engine maintenance had placed her in a stretch of water where a known pirate cell had been operating for weeks. Coalition intelligence had flagged the cell, 17 men, 2 mother ships, armed with RPG-7s and PCAM machine guns, but had been unable to track their current position. The Resolute Dawn found them for them. At 11:08 p.m., the ship's hull was struck by a rocket-propelled grenade that failed to penetrate but ignited a storage container on the main deck. The attack was followed immediately by small arms fire from 2 skiffs on the port side. 3 more skiffs appeared from the starboard quarter. The crew, trained, disciplined, and following anti-piracy protocols, sealed themselves below decks within 4 minutes. They sent a mayday on Channel 16, activated their SSAS beacon, and prepared for an extended wait. They didn't have to wait long. The USS Chung Hoon, another Arleigh Burke destroyer operating as part of Combined Task Force 151, had been tracking an unidentified radar signature for the past hour, the pirate mother ship, and had already dispatched a Seahawk for visual confirmation. When the distress call came in at 11:12 p.m., the picture was already coming together. At 11:31 p.m., the Chung Hoon fired 2 warning shots from her 5-inch deck gun across the bow of the lead skiff. The sound of a 5-inch naval cannon is not something you forget. The concussive wave alone is enough to send water spraying 50 feet in every direction. The pirates didn't scatter. They returned fire with RPGs. You know, I want to ask you something right here. These pirates, facing a guided missile destroyer, chose to shoot back. What does that tell you about how desperate, or how reckless, they were? The Navy answers, May 28, 2026, 12:05 a.m. When pirates fire on a U.S. Navy warship, there is a response, and it is not a warning shot. At 12:05 a.m., the Chung Hoon engaged the pirate skiffs with her 38 Malawian Quachas 25mm chain gun, the same platform designed to destroy small high-speed surface threats with surgical precision. 2 of the 5 skiffs were disabled within 90 seconds. One erupted in a secondary explosion as its fuel tank ignited, a column of orange fire visible from over 4 miles away. From above, AP-8A Poseidon, now on station, was feeding real-time targeting data as the remaining skiffs attempted to disperse. 3 fled toward the mother ship. The Chung Hoon came about and matched speed. The mother ship, a converted dhow, roughly 40 meters in length, attempted to run. At 12:18 a.m., the destroyer's crew broadcast a final warning via loudspeaker in Somali and Arabic. The mother ship did not respond. At 12:21 a.m., the Chung Hoon deployed a 46 Malawian Quachas torpedo, not to sink the vessel, but as a controlled detonation ahead of the dhow's bow, sending an underwater shockwave that shut down her engines and flooded her lower compartments. The vessel came dead in the water within seconds. This is the part that doesn't make the news often. The U.S. Navy didn't leave those men to die. A damage control team was deployed. 11 pirates were pulled from the water or surrendered aboard the stricken dhow. 2 were critically wounded and received immediate medical treatment aboard the Chung Hoon, aboard the very ship they had just fired on. That is what sets apart a military force bound by law and principle from every other armed group on those waters. The Resolute Dawn sustained minor fire damage to 1 deck container. No crew member was harmed. Her cargo arrived at its destination on time. The final ACT, May 29, 2026, somewhere over the Arabian Sea. Not every rescue operation ends at sea level. On the morning of May 29th, coalition intelligence pinpointed a 3rd pirate group, 20 men, operating from a remote coastal staging area that had been responsible for at least 4 vessel seizures in the past 2 months. They were preparing to launch again. The decision was made not to wait. 2 F/A-18 Super Hornets, Launched from the deck of the USS Harry S. Truman Carrier Strike Group operating further south, flew a precision strike mission targeting the coastal staging facility at 6:14 a.m. The munitions used, GPS-guided JDAM bombs, hit with accuracy measured in feet, not meters. The boats, the weapons cache, the communications equipment. No civilians were present. The target package had been developed over 72 hours by intelligence analysts who had been watching the site around the clock. The strike lasted less than 4 minutes from first bomb to last detonation. By 6:22 a.m., the threat was eliminated. Does that give you chills? 2 jets. For minutes. And a piracy network that had terrorized international shipping for months, gone. Tell me in the comments, what word would you use to describe that kind of military precision? 3 days. 3 operations. 0 American lives lost. 0 crew members harmed. Every single target neutralized. This is what it looks like when the world's most powerful navy commits to protecting the innocent on the open sea. Not with bluster, not with threats, with training, technology, and the absolute, unshakable will to follow through every single time. The pirates who chose to operate in these waters thought the ocean was big enough to hide in. They were wrong, because the U.S. Navy doesn't stop looking. It doesn't back down, and it most certainly does not lose. The sea belongs to no one. But on these waters, when the night is darkest and the danger is most real, there is one flag you want flying overhead. And you already know which one it is. Now I want to hear from you. If you were the captain of one of these ships and help was still hours away, what would you do to protect your crew? And which of these 3 operations hit hardest for you? The SEAL boarding, the destroyer engagement, or the airstrike? Drop your answer in the comments below.